As you know, Lori Vallow-Daybell has an upcoming trial, and she's got an attorney named Mark Means, who's a very aggressive advocate for his client. And he has now gone online and is doing what I'm calling a means tweet. Not a mean tweet, but a means tweet. Take a look at what he tweeted here. All the rats are running. He tweeted that. And he tweeted, "As I prepare the defense for Lori Vallow-Daybell, I am learning that persons like Melanie Gibb and her boyfriend, David Warwick, appear to have been eagerly, quote, involved in more than they let on. If you know something, say something." That, along with the rats. Very interesting, different, peculiar approach to everything. And I don't know if it's a sign of the times, like we do a lot of things on Twitter now, online, right? That's a means, right? A way of communicating. Or is it more of a sign of desperation? Let's bring in CourtTV anchor Julie Grant, who's with us. Julie, great to see you.
Hi there, Vinny.
Let's start with the rats. Your reaction to the rats on the tweet.
Well, I have to admit, when I saw it, I thought, oh, that's, it's kind of funny in a sense. He's got the rat gif and all that. But when you really dig deep into this, I'm thinking, the old saying goes, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Okay, Melanie Gibb and David Warwick are free. They're roaming free. They are not in jail. They're not locked up. And there's name calling here being done by the attorney for one of the accused. And so then when you think about that, okay, you can call them rats in this way by putting the GIF up there and writing that kind of cryptic tweet. But then what you're saying as an attorney can potentially hurt your client because of the rules of professional responsibility, Vinny.
So what is he doing? I mean, is this a way to investigate a case? Okay, I'm going to put it out there. People will read it, and I'm looking for information. It's like, I guess a modern way to try to investigate something. We're in the shutdown of COVID, so it's probably not appropriate to knock on doors. But is this a legitimate way to try to get information that could perhaps help you or shed some light on some issues or potentially on some witnesses?
Vinny, I question whether it is. And this is why I say that, because if you read the language really carefully, the tweet is focused on Melanie Gibb and David Warwick, saying that they were more involved, quote unquote, with what happened and what they let on to the public. If you know something, say something. Well, wait a second, time out here. What about knowing something about the two dead kids? What about JJ and Ty Lee? We have two dead kids belonging to his client, Lori Vallow-Daybell. These two dead kids were found in her husband, Chad Daybell's backyard. I would believe that this was more a cry for information if it was saying, please, do you have any information on these kids? What happened? Share it with us. I would find that a little more sincere than trying to attack the state's star witnesses. And that can be really problematic, Vinny, because the way the rules of professional conduct are set up for attorneys, if you're an attorney who is in a case, you have to be very, very careful what you say publicly, because it could prejudice the outcome of the case, especially when you're doing something like attacking a witness for their character or for their credibility. And it appears to me with this tweet, with the rat gif, that's what this attorney is doing.
Well, there was a response. Now, the response did not come directly through an account associated with Melanie Gibb or her boyfriend, but it came through Nate Eaton from the EastIdahoNews.com and posted the response. Melanie Gibb's response to this tweet from Lori Vallow-Daybell's attorney, quote, "The truth will prevail." This is going to get very interesting. I mean, now think about it. We've got the battle of the tweets, and at some point, it's going to be a battle inside a courtroom where a witness is testifying and being cross-examined. I mean, this is going to be even more interesting than we thought and a little bit more intense than we thought.
Right. Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, this case is one for the books. I mean, you've said it all along. Like, we could literally be here for days talking about this, explaining this, and we have. I mean, for months, we've been dissecting this case. It is very convoluted, a lot of players involved. And with respect to Melanie Gibb, I think that was probably the best response she could have given is, the truth will come out at the end of the day. And that's all I'm going to say to that. Not going to dignify it with anything further. And I think if Mark Means really was looking for information about the case or something that, could help his client here, maybe the better way to do it than Twitter, Vinny, would have been for him to get a private investigator. I mean, we know defense attorneys all the time use private eyes to help investigate their cases because they're not trusting what's been turned over to them from the government. And they say, oh, hang on, I'm going to get a PI to do this work. And most of the time, it's retired police officers who've served years and years for the government. They're in retirement and they're going to make some money on the side doing private work. So that might have been the better way to put it out there rather than as counsel taking to Twitter, getting into the mud. And then you have her being questioned by media outlets. We don't want this to get any messier. And certainly he doesn't want an inquiry from the disciplinary board either. So I think that should be the last tweet that's sent.
Well, it may not be, though. He's very aggressive. We know he's. Now, that word involved, and I was wondering, what exactly is he going at here? There may be more involved. Well, we're going to go back now to some of the testimony of Melanie Gibb, where she's on cross-examination. Let's take a listen to what she, concedes on cross.
At some point, there was a question regarding the whereabouts of JJ, is that right?
Correct.
And at that point, you had advised him that you had JJ in your care, correct?
I told him that I had him and then I didn't have him.
Okay. So the initial time that you told him that you had JJ, that was not a truthful statement to Officer Pillar, was it?
Correct.
And when you tell a statement that's not accurate to a police officer, that's a lie, is it not?
Correct.
So you lied to a police officer, is that correct?
Correct.
And then at some point, how long between the time when you told that lie to the police officer regarding the whereabouts of JJ Vallow did you correct your lie? How much time passed?
Till I spoke to him on December 6th, I believe. I could be off a day or two.
So, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want an accurate reflection of the amount of time that we're talking about. The initial call from Officer Gilbert occurred sometime in late November. Would you have any reason to disagree with that, ma'am?
No.
And then the time when you decided to tell Officer Gilbert the truth, at least what you think the truth is, was sometime in December, the 6th of December.
Correct.
So approximately 10 to 12 days passed from the time you told your first lie to when you decided to come up with a different story for Officer Gilbert later on, correct?
Correct.
All right, so, this obviously is going to be one point of contention and attack on Melanie Gibb. The lie, but the admitted lie, but it was a lie for her friend who is the defendant here. So, by the way, Mark Means never got to question Melanie Gibb because they waived their preliminary hearing. So we never had those two go at it. Has Mark Means clarified anything, Julie?
He did, Vinny. He put out another tweet after that first one with the rats and the GIF and saying how Melanie and her boyfriend were more involved. So the next tweet that he put out, and I'm going to read this verbatim, he said, quote, zealously advocating for his client, with very limited resources against the unlimited resources of the state of Idaho. FBI, Attorney General, etc., as well as dealing with a pool of witnesses, majority of whom are LDS, that have been instructed to not speak up or participate in this case or our justice system by the first presidency of said religious corporation, end quote. So he's making the point that, hey, this is one man against all of these big agencies with so many resources to investigate his client. However, I'm just to take it back to what I was saying before. That is true. Certainly, lots of resources out there, but those prosecutors are obligated to turn over anything that can exculpate or vindicate or free Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell from these proceedings if they find it. So all of these investigators, if they find something that lets them know, oh my gosh, we've got the wrong people for these crimes, they have an ethical obligation to stop the proceedings, adjust the charges, or withdraw the charges, or just turn over that information and let defense counsel do what they may with it if it's something more minor. So I think I appreciate his zealous advocacy, but I would proceed with caution. I really, if I were Mark Means, I would focus more on the client and the defense and stay away from Twitter, leave that kind of stuff to investigators, advocacy groups. These rules that are set up, Vinny, to guard against pretrial publicity, they particularly they restrict the attorneys who are involved in the actions. And this is why, this is a great example, why attorneys like me and you, Vinny, we can go on Court TV and we can talk about these things endlessly because the rules recognize there is public value in informed legal commentary. And other attorneys speaking about cases don't have that effect that the attorneys who are actually involved and privy to all the information and facts do. That's why the rules apply to them. And so I really think he ought to quit while he's ahead with the Twitter.
Yeah. Well, we've got some outstanding motions in the case, and one of the big issues that still has to be decided is whether or not the cases will be joined for Doomsday Prophet and his lovely new bride, Lori Vallow-Daybell, and where the case or cases will be heard. So there's a lot of decisions that still have to be made that will severely impact this. And, you know, if Mark Means is painting the picture that he is fighting, you know, local law enforcement, the FBI and LDS, he's going to want to get that thing moved out of Dodge where they are right now.
Yeah, you make a great point. Absolutely. The community, and just to his point in the tweet about those, LDS folks who may be afraid to speak up or just, he can't get a fair trial there. Absolutely. Push to move it out of there. Push for a change of venue. Nothing wrong with that. Get it out of that community and make sure there's a fair jury. Because at the end of the day, the rules that restrict attorney comments or to guard against pretrial publicity and to ensure the right to a fair trial that every criminal defendant has. And so if this jury pool is tainted because they know of the teachings of Chad Daybell and they've heard this could be somewhat of a cult, then absolutely it needs to be moved out of there. And just as I think it should be moved out, Vinny, I think they ought to be joined too. So I would be stunned and amazed if this judge didn't join these two co-defendants for this criminal action to be tried together.
All right. Court TV anchor Julie Grant, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinny.